Hey everyone, hi, hello, welcome. I'm feeling better once again today, but it's like I got TMI. I got like mucus or phlegm in a space that I can't clear it. It's like not deep enough into my throat for me to clear it from my throat, and it's not shallow enough in my nose for me to clear it through my nose, and so it's just like chilling there. And I'm like, ugh. Let's thin this mess out. Okay. So, ooh, we may put some cards today. We may not put some cards today. I haven't changed my calendar since uh last weekend. So I'm just gonna run through these and I'll see if I get a hit. I'm just gonna talk. We're just chatting today. Um, Also last night I had a dream, and like this guy does some pretty amazing things in my dreams sometimes. It's like mind blowing and so gorgeous. Like I remember a long time ago, I had a dream where I saw like pairs or triplets, couples of couples of majors, like inked in constellations in the sky. I wish I had a deck because it was like really cool. Um, because it was like stars, and then you draw the lines between them, and it was the constellations. So it was constellations of majors in the sky. And the last one was a single card, and it was the chariot. But instead of it being a horse-drawn chariot, it was a dog sled. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." But last night, it was on the news or whatever that something was going to be happening in the sky. I don't think I watched it, or if I did, I think I forgot. I just happened to be outside, and I was like, "Oh yeah." And like the longer I'm awake, the less I remember. The first time I woke up and I just stayed in bed, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was gorgeous," and I could still see it. But it was like something happened in the sky, and then there was like a flash of light. Since it was so far away, it wasn't like blinding on the surface of the earth. But there was like a flash of light, and then little lights started just shooting out all over the place. And I've been seeing Leliel, Angel of Night, um, for the last 2 days that I've been using the Oracle of Emanations. She's made an appearance on the other channel, and I've been calling her like Star Maker or something like that. And so then I saw the birth of all those stars. I was like, "Oh, guys, that was gorgeous." Also, it's another warm one. The snow is still melting. I'm excited. Usually, I like snow, but we've had enough of it that I'll take some. Not for my birthday. On my birthday weekend, it's going to be in the 50s and the snow is melting. And my grandma was like, "It's your fault that the weather is as bad as it is because you've been celebrating your birthday all month." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Mm-hmm." I'm like, "Okay, grandma." But on my birthday weekend, we get the sun. So, but let's start this. So, George Washington was born on February 11, 1732, according to the Julian calendar. When the Gregorian calendar was adopted in 1752, he chose to celebrate his birthday on February 22nd, the equivalent date in the new calendar. George Washington was alive before the Gregorian calendar. I thought the Gregorian calendar was older for some reason because well, no, I guess that was the Julian calendar that added July and August. I like this. What's interesting about this though is it was on this channel, because on the other channel it was something different. It was that energy of like the inside and the outside being unaligned. And so you have to find and anchor yourself in the equivalent space to sort of equalize things and to resynchronize them between the worlds. And so he was born in a time on one day, and a new time started celebrating his birthday on that corresponding day. To celebrate it on the same day in a different system would have been out of place. Also, I've discovered that, George Washington teeth wasn't necessarily made of birch and bark and oak. It was like he had a slave teeth. I was like, oh my gosh. But besides, and it's interesting that it's like the 11th and the 22nd. Also, there's like 20 years between when he was born and when the calendar was adopted. I wonder what my birthday is in the Julian calendar then. I'm curious. Hold up. Let's look it up. I wonder if it changes my numerology. Give me that 7. Here we go. Okay. Color me confused. What? 31 days in December, January. 90. 90. Oh, because those are. Oh, wait. This is just day. Okay. All right. So I guess I would have to find. Hey Siri, what is the 28th? Oh, wait. Hey, the 28th of February is which day out of the year? Oh, come on. What, like, how many? Oh, if there's 31 days in January and 28 days in February, then I should just be able to add 31 plus 28, right? And that'll give me something. Because the days are just numbered, so I didn't, 59, 59. Let's see where 50. Well, that doesn't help me. It's the same. It's the same. Okay, never mind. Well, it was fun to try. Sorry. So that was George Washington. Next is Grow Better Naturally. New from the Old Farmer's Almanac, the Garden Guide helps you to grow greener, cleaner vegetables, herbs, flowers, even ammentals? What's an accidental, girl? I don't know. Sentimentals. Sentimentals. Oh, okay. Thank you. Sentimentals and offers weekend DIY ideas, innovative products, new plants, time saving wisdom, and more so that you can have your best garden ever. So, February 23rd was there was a little advertisement for the gardeners, for the people who want to grow greener, cleaner vegetables, herbs, flowers, and sentimentals. This Grow Better Naturally, for me, it's talking about an energy that I've been sort of feeling lately when it comes to medicine, and how modern medicine is a lot more destructive. It's a lot more indiscriminately destructive than, um, I don't want to say like ancient, than like older medicines, the medicine of antiquity. Medicines of antiquity more often than not utilize natural properties of natural things to do something. And so it was a lot more specialized, a lot more discriminate. Now it's like, oh, well, we can kill things pretty effectively. So we just kill it. And it's like, well, what about the good cells? What about the good parts? It's not just bad. And so maybe that also tends to how things have been kind of sort of extremized, and how in some ways it's like we've grown accustomed to accepting the loss of certain things that don't need to be lost for whatever reason that we believe in. But it's like if you look at it, it's almost empty. because it's like sometimes we lose more intentionally than we would have lost otherwise. And so this is that return back to nature. It's greener and cleaner. It's more involved with the world around us, but in more than just like physical ways, right? It's kind of sort of, it can be more than just like eating green or having a vegetarian or vegan diet. It's more all encompassing than that. Okay. So the 24th, to dream of crocuses signifies happy new beginnings. What is that? I dream of something just popped into my mind. I like this one. I don't know if I've seen any crocuses in a dream. It was Flag Day in Mexico yesterday. To dream of crocuses signifies happy new beginnings. What I like about these, it almost looks like it's growing in the snow, if you can see that. They almost look like they're growing out of the snow. And I guess if it's new beginnings, then happy new beginnings is fitting. For some reason, it's like Rihanna, we found love in a hopeless place. It's like an opposite Five of Pentacles type of energy, where instead of finding isolation and solitude from a space where you shouldn't, it's like finding happiness and joy at a time that you didn't think you would find it. And it goes back to that energy I guess I was feeling yesterday of like us being in a space preparing a foundation for something that we don't even know we're preparing it for in the moment. And it happens very serendipitously. And if we knew what we were preparing ourselves for at the time that we were preparing ourselves for it, it would have introduced a lot more resistance into the equation than needed to be. It would have prevented us from getting as far as we had gotten to see what we now see, to be capable of knowing and understanding and perceiving what we can now know, understand, and perceive. And it's almost like it's an energy of like you're learning how to ride a bike and there's someone teaching you. So they're like holding the bike steady for you and moving as you're like pedaling and moving. And you start to pick up momentum and you're like, don't let go, don't let go. And then the person from like, you know, from some distance away is like, I let go a minute ago. You've been going on your own just fine. And then in that moment, it's either the sudden freak out that the person isn't there, like consciously knowing that they're not there, and then you fall, or it's like, wow, I can do this, and you keep going. But your initial reaction doesn't determine like whether or not you're gonna get up and do it again and then do it by yourself from the jump, right? It's a more involved new beginning. I feel like because with an element of happiness, it's like there's a certain level of happiness that we only really experience when we're, I don't want to say in control, but when we feel like we had a say, like a self-generated happiness, like I did this for me and now I get to enjoy this. It makes it amplifies. It can amplify that energy of happiness. And again, it's coming from a space of snow. So there is a certain defiance to this happy new beginning. Very Uranian, very fool energy. I want to say Scorpio for some reason, and Sagittarius. I don't know why. Because it does what it's not supposed to. It accomplishes what wasn't supposed to have been able to accomplish. But again, it's that energy of building the foundation for it when you didn't realize it. Because if you knew that the person let go when they let go, you would have fallen immediately. And maybe the person recognized that, so they let go without telling you. And then you find your own 2 feet. And now, instead of them training you on how to ride a bike, you can ride bikes together. Or you can learn something new. I don't know. And now taking this up to today. Look at that. Oof. Little stuff like that bother me sometimes. I'm not a perfectionist, but I wish I could be. I don't wish I could be. So, a question. Why is an egg overdone? Wait, why is an egg underdone like an egg overdone? Purim begins at sundown. I don't know what Purim is, but that's a little holiday. I'm gonna cover the answer. There's the question. Why is an egg underdone like an egg overdone? The answer is it is hardly done. Oh, okay. This one it made me think. I'm like, oh, Katie. So if the egg is underdone, then it's like hardly done, like right before done. If an egg is overdone, then it's hardly done, like just completed it, done. And so there's this small gap. It's like that energy when people say that, like, are it's like the quote of, how many people are there out there who like gave up right before the finish line. It also reminds me of the I Ching that's like keep working, you're almost there. And if you just completed something, don't rest too long because it's not like all the way done yet. Like there's still more to do. And at the top of the mountain, the only place to go after you reach the top is down. From the peak, any direction you go is down. Just like when you're at the North Pole, any direction is south. When you're at the South Pole, any direction is north. That's what it means to be at the precipice or at the peak, at the summit, at the pinnacle, right? It also reminds me of like 9, 10, 11. And so it was like, why is 9 like 11? Because of the proximity to 10. And 10, again, I guess speaking of precipices and pinnacles, it's like being at the top of the hill where a little bit of momentum it'll carry you either way. Since you're at the top, gravity is going to kick in. And if you fall forward, you're gonna fall. Like just keep going, going, going. You're gonna snowball forward. If you fall back, you're gonna snowball backward. And I think that's why I don't I'm not extremely well versed in numerology. But I think that's why the number 11 has and George Washington was born on the 11th in the old calendar, 22nd in the new calendar. Um Also, real quick, there's an energy there of beginnings. Maybe there was a place that we started our journey. There was a certain birthday before. Like maybe, oh, okay. Maybe we were like born again on a certain day. Like I count my spiritual birthday being November 4th. Um, because that's when I came out of my darkest night and I started like meditating and doing stuff. That's when I actually started doing things. 2019 or 2018. That was 2018 because 2019 was my first conscious year. I guess I don't really need the air quotes because it was, but so like that's the second birth, and now it's time for a third birth. And I remember I said something a while ago about like the thrice born, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. I was like, to be born 3 times, what that mean? Because it's going even further. It's fully stepping into this new. And it takes me back to that 11 energy because the 9 is right. It's like completion. It's fully closed, but we haven't gone anywhere yet. The 10 is the first step into that new cycle. Talking about archways and doorways from yesterday. So, if like, let's say you walk like this, right? So at 9, it's right before the doorway. At 10, you have 1 foot on the old side, 1 foot in the new side. At 11, that's the first time you have both feet fully in something new. And that's why it carries all the energy of awakening and stuff like that. Because at the 10, it's like you have 1 foot in both, uh, on both sides. But this is saying that even 11 is like the 9 because you could take 2 steps back and be right back at that 9 again, fully in the old cycle. Hey, Mimi. No problem. I should have did something with my hair today, but I ain't feel like it. I'm like, should I get my hair cut? I kind of want to get it braided because it is getting like even longer, but at this rate, I've been wanting it braided for how long? It ain't happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's past my eyeball now, almost to my nose. How you doing today? Yeah, that's how I've been. Like that's how it came to me a minute ago. But that's also why I don't know. It's easy to go from like 11 back to 10 and then back to 9. It's a very volatile space, and I think that's what this little riddle is. You twisted yours up. Yeah, I might. I'm trying to have my mama do it. She did it one time. You saw me with braids, and it was in my hair for like 2 weeks, and I took them down. I was like, I didn't do enough preparation beforehand. Maybe she'll do it for my birthday. I don't know. I think that's what this is talking about. Even sitting at the 11, how easy it is to go back to the 9. And was I saying something about maybe it was in here potentially about new medicine and old medicine and how new medicine will completely wipe you out? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I've said something, but I don't remember. Going to sit outside today is 75 degrees. Hey, I'm about to go outside too. I feel the sun trying to come in. Let's see if you can. Oh, yeah, you can see it. You can see the sun. Hey, Siri, what's the temperature outside?
It's 45 degrees
It's
outside.
45 degrees, but 45 degrees feel like 80 when you've been dealing with, below freezing. And the sun is out too. What's it feel like, though? What the feel like temperature is? Hold on, let me see. I'm curious. Also, Venus is in Pisces now. So yay. Welcome to the Pisces Club, Venus. We got a little Pisces stellium going on now. We got the sun, we got Neptune, we got Venus. Um Mercury will be in Pisces whenever it's in Pisces. I don't know. Neptune is officially at that 20th degree again. Okay. This is the time where dreams come true. See? To dream of crocuses means happy new beginnings. People be trying to poop on Neptune. But that's what I feel like I've never noticed it as much as I did last year. It's like, oh, this planet is in this sign. That means it's going to be difficult. This planet is in this sign. That means it's going to be terrible. This planet is in this sign. That means it's going to be rough. But even not always. But I also noticed that whenever we were going to have a good transit, like things didn't necessarily improve too much either. But for me, again, that's just South Node Sagittarius. That temperance and Wheel of Fortune energy isn't working right now. It's about creating with the North Node and Gemini. The old systems are going to fail you every time, and we're establishing the new ones right now. We're carving new energetic channels. We are defining for the coming age what these transits will mean. Just like how a lot of times now, the transits now are defined by things that were happening a long time ago. But that's how science works. It builds upon a basis of observations and hypotheses that link those observations to some kind of cause. And maybe that's, you know, that's all of these, honestly. The birthday in one calendar that's moved to a different date in the new calendar, how to grow things greener and cleaner in this new space, in this new calendar, because the climate has changed. And then it's the dreaming of crocuses, which is the thing that we're growing, which is happy new beginnings. And again, it's like now there's spring in a space where there was winter before. Or if you want to experience spring, you have to find the place that you have to find the place inside yourself and outside of yourself that aligns to that. And I've been seeing, not necessarily like lately, but about a week to a week and a half ago, I was seeing a whole bunch of astrocartography things. I don't know, YouTube just started throwing astrocartography in my face. And it was like, these are the areas that, based on your zodiac information and based on the zodiac of this place, then, it's a good match. And I did have that dream of the birth of new stars earlier or last night. And like stars were just like shooting all over the place, but they all came from one area in the sky. So it's not like stars were just popping up out of nowhere or stars were like flying all over the place. It was like from one root locus, which was the epicenter, I guess. They were all flying outwards, scattering across the, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, snap. See, there you go. But, it takes some babies a minute to learn how to walk. But we's the babies. You did your astrocartography chart. I almost did mine because I saw that it's a feature on astro.com and I'm already on astro.com. So I was like, oh, but I'm not on Astro on I'm only on Astro on my phone because I forgot my sign in information. So I'm not on my computer. So I was like, oh, well, I would want to do that on my computer anyway. That's all of this energy. And then here today, it's why is an underdone egg like an overdone egg? It's hardly done. It's like, are you working hard or hardly working? Type of energy. And I kind of want to pull some cards, but I don't think it's for me to because this is something that we all discover in our own lives. Um, and it's something that we know for ourselves. And if you want to change something, then change it. Like for the longest time, I've been inspired by one of the old what you call them, sci-fi shows. It was like a crime thriller sci-fi show, I guess, if I had to slap some genres on it. But they dealt with parallel realities, parallel universes. Um, and there was this one character who was like dopey in one universe, but he was super cool in the other universe. And the dopey one was like, well, like, let's run through our histories so like I can find out why you're so much cooler than me. And literally their entire lives were the exact same. But the cool one woke up one day and just decided to not be dopey anymore. And that's why he wasn't dopey. It wasn't anything that happened external to him or anything that necessarily happened differently internal to him besides a decision. And that one decision followed through with action led him to be who he was. And going back to this energy where, where we are and where we could be is in the difference in consolidating them. It's a choice. And when you've made that choice for yourself, and when you are dedicated to seeing that choice follow through, everything just, your trajectory is different. And when you do that, when you hit that, or how easily you are to life is difficult always. Not always difficult, but there's always going to be challenge at some point, right? I ain't gonna say I ain't never done backslid, but when I do at the most for 2 days, because after 2 days it's like, yeah, I'm not going back to where I was, because I know how sucky that was and I'm not doing it. Plus I know how awesome things are going to be, so if I have to get over myself, or if I have to be a little brave, then I'm going to get over myself or be brave, because everything that I want lies in front of me, and I'm not going to shrink away from it. You thought to move, you was on to something as far as success in business. Oh, snap. There's like one area in particular that I'm interested in, because it literally just popped into my head one day. And I was like, oh, I want to live there. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's a hard area of the country to live in because of the environment. I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't mind it. So yeah, I'm not gonna pull anything today. And what I did today, this is literally how I live my life. If it seems exhausting, it's the only way I know how to be. That's a sign for me. I'm like, I'm noticing a lot of this lately. What is that? What is it trying to tell me? What does that mean? I think I had another thought, but I don't remember. I think I might build up the skeletons for a few things that I may use. I'm not gonna say I'm never gonna use, because I'm not gonna speak that. I might, but just to see. Huh, just to see what's up. Um, that sounds like a lot. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's not difficult for me because I chose for it to not be. It's not difficult for me because it was too difficult for me before, and I was like, you know what? I've never been this close to taking myself out before. Like, this has been a space that I've visited frequently, very frequently throughout my life. I don't even got to be depressed to visit this space. It's just like living is hard. Not living sounds easier. I was like, you know what? If I keep up at this pace, I might actually do it. So something got to change. And from that moment on, it was like one of the easiest decisions I've ever made. Because no matter how difficult it is, the momentum is too strong going forward. But I think a lot of times it's like, and I've been there, we reach spaces where we're stuck and we're tired of being stuck and we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but we're not so sick and tired of being sick and tired that we actually do something to change it. And I was there for a long time. Like, no one likes being depressed or anxious or miserable. But the amount of effort that we put into actually getting ourselves out of those positions, instead of making ourselves okay with being in it, it's like, well, what's the truth? Like, what is it really? Because if you were really tired, you would do something about it, type of energy. And it's easy to say that it's not that simple, but in reality, sometimes it is that simple to just choose. You can literally wake up one day, nothing happens external in your life. You just decide, you know what, like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And then you stop doing it and things start to change. And it's like, wow, like all I had to do was decide. And it's like, yeah. I mean, not just decide, but you actually have to follow through with it too. And that's what this is. This is talking about the follow through. Because you can hit that awakening at the 11 and be right back at the 9. Because what you saw when you were fully in it scared you. It's like one of those things, like when the sun is out and it's nocturnal and they like recoil from the light. So like you think you're about to step into the light, like, yeah, I'm about to get out of that cave. But as soon as a little bit of sunlight hits you, you go and you run back in the cave. I mean, it's all on self. We're extremely powerful creatures. We're as limited as we believe we are, and we're as limited as we live to be. And it doesn't matter what expansive theology or philosophy you follow if you don't have any follow through. And for a while, the law of attraction has been like, if you think it, you can get it. Just think about it long enough, speak it long enough, and you'll get it. But where's the action? Because you actually got to, like, even to receive it, you got to still, like, do something. You got to buy the lotto ticket to win the lottery. You ain't just going, like, and a lot of times we manifest, oh, I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery. But you never buy a ticket. And then people be like mad at spirit or confused or giving up. And it's like, well, like you never even bought the ticket. So the freak, like, hello? Like, where'd that work? And not to laugh, but it's like when you get out of it, and I don't even think you have to be fully out of it to realize and recognize that, like, we do stuff like that. And it's like, wow. And for me, I don't know, like self love was too prominent a theme in a lesson last year for me to do any less than okay. I ain't perfect either. So I was gonna say it's too important for me to do any less than my best. Am I doing my best right now? I think part of me says no because the old system, it's like an old school of thought that's like, if you want to do whatever, then you got to do this, and that. But it's like my idea, my vision is being refined as I continue to live life. And I'm knowing what it is that I want to do. And I could exert a whole bunch of effort in ways that may lead me to something. But if none of it feels aligned, if none of it feels like anything that I should do, then why would I do it? I continue to do the things that I feel led to do in the moment, and those things um, lead me to new expanded horizons or whatever. And like, I have to be back in less than a month now for a follow up procedure anyway. So I don't want to like relocate like I could have if I wanted to, like relocate and then have to like come back and then like see if anything happens. Excuse me. But there's so much now that like for me being stuck isn't an option because I don't know. After I got my degree, and it was sucky. It was super sucky. That was like the ultimate challenge for me because I hate doing homework. And not only do I have to do homework, but now I have to do homework with no deadlines, with no one to be like, hey, Patrick, like, did you do your homework? Now Patrick has to be responsible for doing his homework. And I was like, as sucky as this is, though, like, I'm worth it. I love myself enough to suffer through this right now to make my life later better or to improve my chances at a better life or to at the very least expand the toolkit in my box. Like I'm worth that to me because I know that other people are worth it to me. Like I do something sucky or suffer through something sucky for other people. So I can do it for me too. Yeah. And I think for me, a lot of times it's like I've also gotten into the practice of like questioning, like, is this a me thing or is this a societal thing? Now, there were some, I'm not going to say I was necessarily mean, but like if I'm being honest with myself, I do have to be critical. And if I'm not doing all that I can do, if I could do more, if I could do better, then that's the truth. And I think sometimes, depending on how we talk to ourselves or how we interpret that, it can be more destructive. But I don't know. It's a complex thing, and I do my best to try to address all of the complexities when they arise. But also, my brain kind of sort of naturally works that way because of the trauma that I've been through. So I'm turning that trauma into internal drama. You're right. It's from trauma to drama. It's maybe not always that great, but it's an improvement. And then from drama, we can turn it into a conversation. And then at that point, it's like, okay, it's more productive and less beat myself up. So, yeah. And I think that's like one of the big things that'll really begin to shift a lot of those conversations because it's like when someone says something to you in a nasty tone, it doesn't matter if it's the truth or not. It's the way they said it that rubs you the wrong way. And once you get upset, you ain't even listening to the end. But if you can change the tone of that conversation, then it's like, oh, okay. So like what can I do or what should I be doing? And it goes better. That's something that I learned from meditation class in the comic of 2019. Because I was like, why do I keep doing like I'm not gonna guilt myself. I'm not gonna shame myself. I just need to know why I keep doing this. Cause this is not great. It's never great. It's very not great for many reasons. Yet I keep doing this. All right, Patrick, like, what's up? What's up? And instead of being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. And it doesn't even feel good, girl. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have lots and lots and lots of conversations all the time. So that's my key. But for me, like I'm naturally that kind of person. So that's probably why it works the way that it works for me. Other people are different ways. Some people are like extremely action oriented. And so their journey may be one of consecutive action. Some people are more dream oriented, maybe. And so their journey, or like sign oriented. And so their journey will be more focused on like what they experience in their environment. Some people are more like internal reflective heavy. And so their journey will be one that's primarily guided and prompted by internal circumstance. Like for me, um, I'm an internally heavy person. Like my moon is in my first house. Um, and so for me, it was like any of the blockages that I have internally, that's what I need to work through. So for me, it's not about like doing something or going somewhere or even waiting for a sign, because if I do any of that, it's going to distract me from my own modality of operation. So, I don't know, Mimi, because I still see people from high school and from elementary school and from middle school. I still be in school sometimes. I don't think I've been a student in a while though. And there's one teacher, like my Latin teacher from high school, she'll just pop up, especially like if I'm in in a group scenario and there's someone who like assigns groups, or if there's a leader of the group, then she'll pop up. Um, I think it depends on the context of the dreams. Cause like if I have a dream and the setting is high school or middle school or elementary school, it could be a theme of like learning. But depending on what happens in the dream, like that may be the arena that I'm learning in. And so to see classmates, I think it would also depend on your familiarity with those people. Cause like classmates are people who you see every day because you're in the same place, right? It's not that you're necessarily making the choice to see them. You don't necessarily like them, and so you're going to see them. You don't necessarily dislike them, so like you don't really have the opportunity to avoid them too much, especially if they're in your class. It's like the people who you're surrounded with because of circumstance. Now, circumstance can be good though, because there can be people who it would take you time to warm up to. People who you don't necessarily like immediately, but the more time you spend around them and the more you get to know them, even by like indirectly, maybe you eventually become friends. And so the situation or like cohabitating that space or that shared place doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I don't know. Yeah. That's why it's like you would have to see like what else is happening in those dreams. Cause like there was a one dude I was dreaming of like all the time. And I was like, why am I dreaming about him? Like I don't even like him. But for me, he symbolized a person that I spent a lot of time I met him my freshman year of college. He was there all the way through grad school. And so from like 2011 to 2016, 17, he's someone I was around. Like we lived in the same building, we worked together, and then he was my RA. So he lived on my floor. But that whole time, he was someone that I never really got to know because I made a decision and a judgment that I had seen enough of him to know that I didn't want to like get to know him. I was never interested. And so when he popped up in a dream for me later, it was just a question of like, and like for me, there's also this context of like super, like, there's a lot of 11th house energy because I'm coming upon my Saturn return in the 11th house. I'm coming up, like my sun is in the 11th house. My 11th house cusp is Aquarius. And so like that's where like that stellium is, and even moving into Pisces, it's still there. Um, and so like communities and things of that nature are something that's probably going to be a theme. And so in my life, he was someone who was always in my 11th house area. Like we worked together, we went to the same school, we lived in the same building, but I never took the time to get to know him. And like we've even had mutual friends. Like one of his high school friends became one of my good friends, and she would like hang out with him. And I'm just like, oh, I don't like him. Like I'm not gonna say that you can't be friends with him, obviously, because I'm not that type of person. But I'm just not interested in like talking about him. So, you know, we didn't really talk about him. We had a lot of other things to talk about. Um, and there were like we had a lot of like mutual friends because like we worked together and we lived in the same building. So like there were people that we both knew, no problem. But for me, it wasn't. At first, it was like it's weird that I'm thinking about that dude, but it's also like in my mind, it's like okay, well, because like I know him and I know our relationship. This is the context that I have. So using these as context clues, what do I have from the environment and the situation in the dream? Like what's happening in the dream? How is that character being sort of like talked about or interacted with in the dream? And honestly, it's just somebody that I spend a lot of time with, but never really take the time to get to know because of whatever reason that may or may not be valid. Like the first dream was somebody talking about how like cool or how awesome or how strong he is because of everything that he's been through in his own life, but how he continues to strive to succeed and show up and do whatever. And I was like, wow, like that's super impressive. I never knew that about him because I didn't care to know. I didn't want to know. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm like, it kind of depends. And that's another thing. Sometimes, and for me, I can kind of sort of sometimes tell when the dream is about the person and when the dream isn't about the person, but what the person symbolizes in my life in that type of relationship. Like I've had dreams about people and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's about that person. Like that's not like what does this person mean to someone else? It's like, yeah, that's a dream about that person and like what they're going through right now. Um, and then it'll be confirmed later. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. But yeah. I really want to. I'll pull these cards because I looked right at them. I never use them. That's like, I want to pull something. This is interesting though. Oops. All that clickety click click clacking. Clickety click click clack. Sit back, relax. Who this? Oh, oh, girl. Ah, hold up, y'all. 1 second. Oh, I need some water. I'm in the clearing phase. And it's annoying. At least it don't hurt. I just found the 3 of Raphael on the floor. Oh, gosh. See, I just pulled the Mystic Mondays. This is my incomplete deck. And this is why I be asking these cards don't fall on the floor. I already got one deck that's incomplete. Why y'all keep doing this to me? Why? Why? But the 3 of Cups is all about community. And I guess there's also this energy here talking about what we're talking about. It's an energy of a community of happenstance. So when you're at work, when you're at school, the people you live with, the community you live with, people that you meet maybe frequently because of shared spaces and necessitated space, but then actually like deepening those connections from those spaces. Because like, as long as we were around each other, we could have become extremely good friends, and he would have been one of my friends that was there from my freshman year to like late into my college career. Excuse me. Also, we have very similar interests, career interests. um had similar paths, even though like I went about it in the engineering route and he would have went about it in the biology, chemistry, biochemistry route. um Girl, 3 of Raphael. And this card was coming out a lot too. I'm gonna just put you back. I don't even know why you out here playing. You think your dream was more about your environment, association, influences, not so much the people. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I stopped taking sinus medicine. I think I need to. At first, I was just taking mucus medicine. I was like, oh, it's the mucus. But it's like, no, still need to drain these sinuses. So I'm going to pull a few cards and we'll just see what's up. Maybe about this, maybe not about this. Who knows? The Mystic Mondays. Okay, I'll just see what comes out. I remember one time too. I had a dream. One time I had a dream that there was a second moon in the sky. It was weird, but only one of the moons was full. Um, and then I had a dream I was on like another planet, and the sky at night was just gorgeous. It was gorgeous. I was like, I've never seen like stars like this ever in my life. I mean, I didn't even see what the Milky Way looked like from Earth when people are in certain places with less light pollution. So, but it was just like breathtaking. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that little light show last night, I don't know what that's about, but if there's some lights out there, turn it on. Welcome. This is funny. The Princess of Pentacles just fell out, and the Page of Pentacles is at the top of the Angel deck. And when I was putting the cards back, she actually fell off, but I didn't take her. Well, here she came out of this deck. And I saw something on my Facebook. It's like some Starseed, whatever. And it was like, a lot of Starseeds are people who feel like they don't belong on Earth. And I think the whole Starseed, not the whole, but a lot of the Starseed, not a lot, some of the Starseed story is like, in my mind, it's like, for you to be on any team or be sent here on a mission or whatever, if you don't integrate into the local population, or if you don't find a space, like if you choose to isolate yourself even more, I don't know necessarily how effective that would be. And it may not be easy, but it's like it's about, and maybe that's why that Three of Cups was still out, because it's about finding community, and you can find a community and like still work yourselves into life, right? I don't know if it's, I just don't know how effective it would be if everyone who was here to make a difference, they just create communities with like-minded people that isolates the impact of that from the environment where it was placed. Like if you're positioned to be a beacon of light to change things, but you go to a place where there's already light because there's already light there, then now that place where you could have been a beacon is left without its light. And you're in a space now that looks like you don't have the impact that you could have, because now you're kind of sort of preaching to the choir instead of the masses. But everyone wants to feel like they belong, so I don't know. I don't know. I just like this how my brain works. In my mind, maybe that's for me, it's all about accepting paradox and learning how to navigate both worlds, internally and externally. Okay. Oh gosh. I just I just picked the card up from the flow. Why y'all acting like this? So these four cards came out. Oh snap! I actually love this because this is the star and strength. That's giving me a Leo, Aquarius, fifth house, 11th house energy. And that's what I was feeling when I was talking about that one dude. And whenever we talk about people who, through circumstance, we see frequently, it's like, since we see them so much, even if we don't necessarily like them, it's easier for them to make the jump from 11th house to fifth house, where instead of just somebody we work with, somebody we go to school with, it's someone who becomes like one of our inner circle, maybe even someone who becomes almost like family. Now, in between that is the Lovers and the Four of Pentacles, which is pretty self-explanatory, or pretty like it follows, because like with this energy, it's your openness. If you're closed off from it, it's not going to happen. If you're open to it, it will. So that's not really like groundbreaking. I think what is groundbreaking though is creating the space, like I was just talking about, how when we feel like we've been ostracized or isolated, and how we choose to isolate ourselves even more. But if you come down here with a purpose or with a mission, then there's still some way for you to serve. And different people serve differently, right? Like I'm the type of person where I don't like, I've never necessarily felt like I fit into the way things run, but I also don't. I mean, I had my little stoic period, sure, but I don't also feel like it's for me to completely isolate myself from the world either. Like, am I critical of it? Am I analytical of it? Yeah, but I feel like I can be in it and want it to be better. Am I still finding the ways through which my voice can actually, I don't want to say actually make an impact, because your voice, any space you use it, is impactful. But for me, what I'm doing right now is I'm finding the space in society that I can best serve. And a part of me, like, I want to work at a company that's already got it figured out. And you can only do so much, but maybe I'll start there. And then after I have built my resume, I can go to somewhere else where, other people also learn to recognize my voice. I don't know. We figure it out as we learn. A natural introvert, that's what you're learning, North Node and Gemini. I'm a natural extrovert, believe it or not. I became an introvert because of trauma. Integrating yourself into society and not people just like you. Can't learn and expand in the same lakes, got to dive into the oceans. Right. And I think that's because with this Page of Pentacles, it's almost like if you're offering something that no one wants and no one's ever going to get it. There's also this feeling of like needing to learn how to talk to people or needing to learn to present things in a way that people will understand. I feel like that's a shadowy not even necessarily Sagittarius. That's just people. That's a shadowy intellectual energy of like needing to overly complicate things. And it's like, oh, like you don't understand. You're dumb. You're stupid. I'm wasting my time. But some would say that those who really understand something are able to communicate it to anybody, right? That's why I've heard so many times it's like, break it down like you're talking to a fifth grader or like your grandma or someone who isn't like a specialist in this field. And if you can't do that, how much do you really understand it? Type of energy. And it's like a lot of times we adopt the lingo and the buzzwords and we know how to string them together and we start to think in lingos and buzzwords. But when you think in lingos and buzzwords, you come up with these revelations and these realizations that you don't know how to use in your actual practical everyday life. And it becomes these things that you kind of sort of know, but you don't know how to apply. And then your dark nights are always dark. Let me stop. That's not necessary. It's not necessary. But it's like those who truly understand could break it down for other people to begin to understand. And again, I say that with a grain of salt because not everyone is a teacher. If there's one thing that college has taught me is that not everyone is a teacher. Not everyone who can be at the leading edge is necessarily capable of teaching those who aren't there. But what's interesting is that like no one is born with all of the information that they have. So why would we lose our ability to help others along paths similar to our own? But I guess the thing would be when you just accept the words of others. When you don't really, it's like when you don't take it in, you learn it, you learn how to regurgitate it, but you don't necessarily learn how to build it yourself. So it's like if you are a contractor or whatever, if you're in the construction business and you make these gorgeous houses, then, people assume that you can make it from nothing to the gorgeous house. But like, it's tricky because like these are things that I like as people, we wouldn't necessarily know that we're doing. But it's like you build these gorgeous houses, but you don't build the foundations. But you market yourself as someone who can do it all. Now, when you go to build a house and it fails, you think it's that person's fault that the house fail. It's that environment, it's that situation that the house failed because every other time I go and build a house, it's gorgeous. And it's like, well, what you don't realize is you don't know how to build the foundation because you just took the foundation of someone else. And the foundation is built in the way it's built because of the environment that it's built in. When you're learning in school, you learn first the easiest, simplest problem or style of problems. They reduce all of the complexities for you, but the real world is infinitely complex. And that's something that I found in my junior year. It's like before junior year, it's like you don't realize how easy they made everything. Just assume this, assume that, and assume something else, and boom, 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 boom. You plug in the formula. But in the real world, all of those assumptions don't apply. And if those assumptions do apply, you need to learn how to identify when they apply and when they don't apply, because the formulas only work in certain conditions. And when the conditions change and you try to use the same formula, you're going to get an answer, but it's going to be incorrect. There's going to be a margin of error. And depending on how many of those assumptions are invalidated, it'll increase your margin of error. So maybe you were the best in this certain area because all of the conditions were the same, so you didn't have to change the foundation that you learned. But in all of your learning, oh, if it was buffering, I assume that if anything that I say is missing, it wasn't meant to be heard. It's meant to be learned and discovered for ourselves. Or maybe that's just me being petty. I don't know. But it's like when you learn, you're learning how to build a certain foundation. And you get really, this is shadow side Sagittarius energy. It's general Sagittarian energy, but it dips into the shadow depending on how well it can accept this. Um, but when you're learning built based off of a certain foundation. So you can't go around claiming you're the best all over the world because in this one specific area you're really, really good. Because what'll happen is somebody will get a house from you, or they'll know someone who wants a house from you, and you'll get called into a different environment. And what you will think is like, yes, this is my opportunity to expand my business. This is my opportunity to go global. But when your house fails in that other area because you didn't learn why the foundation was built the way it was built in, how that foundation or that style of foundation um, takes into account the changes in elevation of the property, the soil conditions of the property, the the weather phenomena. It started where it stopped. Okay, nice. Um, the weather phenomena, and like if it's an area that experiences a lot of earthquakes, then the house will be built a certain way. If it experiences flooding, then the house will be built a certain way. Or if there's a certain river that floods and it washes away the soil, and if your plot is like right there where it starts to wash away and then like over time it leans because it loses all of that support, like those are things that you would be able to take into consideration if you learned why you learned the things that you learned. The fundamentals and the basics are infinitely important because the environment, the situation, it's not necessarily going to be the same everywhere you go. But Sagittarian energy is so like at point Z that it's not, Sagittarian energy is so focused on point Z that it's not really concerned with like A, B, C, and D. And from E to Z, like that's something that you can replicate almost anywhere if you have your A to D set right. And so with this Princess of Pentacles, it's this energy that's like, well, you know, where I come from, this is something that is valued. So if you don't value this, you're ungrateful. And this person is like, well, where I come from, we have so many of those, we throw them away. So you're essentially giving me trash. You're giving me something that I'm going to have to throw away type of energy. It's a disconnect here. And again, that's what like this is about. Strength are the sun and the star. The sun is close, the stars are far. We have to learn to navigate those disconnects. And if we get more defensive with that Four of Pentacles than we are open with the Lovers, we're going to miss it. The last two face down cards, it's the Ace of Wands in reverse and the King of Wands. And this, it goes back to like knowing how to use it. This is a knowing how to use it type of energy. The Ace of Wands in reverse, like it has the passions, it has the ideas, it has the E through Z, but it doesn't have the A through B to ground it in this. And so it's going to fall. It's a tower that's doomed to fall because it's a tower that doesn't take into account we get thunderstorms all the time. And if your building is made out of wood and it gets struck, it's going to burn. Bottom of the deck is the Six of Pentacles, which is a give and take energy. With this, talking about all of this, I think sometimes we don't give the same level of patience and understanding to the people that we wish to experience it from. There's something that is meant to be reciprocal. Like you want someone to give you something that's meaningful to you. That's not necessarily meaningful to them. And we have a very self-centric way of looking at a lot of things. Oh, snap. If you know what the Six of Pentacles, Six of Coins means to me, you know what it means to me. And then the Ace of Cups and the Ten of Cups just came out like, what? Bottom of the deck now is the world. This is that completion. It's that force that unites the world because it's not self-centered. And it's like the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. The golden rule is treat others how you wish to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others how they wish to be treated because they are not you. And it doesn't matter. Like, if you don't care for someone in a way that they will be able to recognize it, they're not going to see that you care for them. Now, them being able to recognize your care, that's like there are things within themselves that may prevent that. And if it's something within them, that's not anything that you can do. Or it may just be like you needing to switch it up. And that's like caring about something or someone enough to do stuff like that. Last but not least is the Emperor. This is going to be the last card. And the bottom of the deck is the Queen of Cups. What's that one song? Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. Dun, 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 dun. My lover stands on golden sands, and I don't know the rest of the words. We'll be sailing or waiting. I don't know. But she came out with the Five of Cups and the Princess of Cups. And it carries an energy of sometimes we can think that we're sitting at the Queen of Cups waiting for somebody else to get it right. But in reality, we're the Princess of Cups in this Five of Cups energy, brooding and doing all kinds of stuff that's not necessarily healing or productive. Stagnant water is the breeding ground for all kinds of not great stuff. And this Emperor is like, he's actually waiting on you to get it together, but you're stuck here thinking you're this, but you're here. You can't be this and be in this energy. It don't work like that. And then the Nine of Swords is behind it. So yeah, so you see her? Here's her holding on to that cup, actually here thinking she's here. Mentally, I'm in Barcelona right now. Okay, well, in reality, you're sitting in the middle of a space that you need to get out of. And this dude, as powerful as he is, can't go in there and rescue you because no one can rescue you from yourself but yourself. They can encourage you, they can try to teach you in some ways, but the person who actually has to do it is you. At the top of the deck is the Four of Cups and the Six of Swords under this Emperor. And I feel like that's an energy of like things can only be stopped for so long before someone has to step in or before the opportunity is missed. I don't know. I think a lot of times we try to hang on to our baggage, and it's like the person who is for us, they should accept us regardless. And that's not like yes and no, because there are still things that need to be done. And with the Hierophant here, those who are committed to themselves, it's like you have to be committed to self before you can be committed to anyone else for a healthy relationship. Or at some point, that commitment to someone else has to be reflected and mirrored into a commitment for self to continue that commitment to someone else. Because if you never look at self, there's always going to be things that come up. And it's not going to be the healthiest Hierophant relationship because there's always going to be something there derailing it. Derail? Who is derail? All right. Well, that's what I got. That kind of sort of took a little turn at the end. But, if you dream of crocuses, that's a new beginning. Happy new beginning. Work hard, play hard. Work hard, play harder. I want to pull one of these too. I don't know why. Queen of Diamonds is at the bottom, cut into the Nine of Diamonds, the Nine of Clubs, the King of Hearts. King of Hearts. Oh, the Ten of Hearts with the Queen of Diamonds. That's that Queen of Cups. Or that Ten of Cups energy again. And that's what the Ten of Cups is. It's the love of self and someone else. Don't really work without that love of self. It's like it. I think we're in a culture where we force things to work. It doesn't work to the fullness of its capacity if there isn't also a healthy amount of self-love. And whatever your means to learning to love yourself is, as long as you get there, that's what's important. Some people can't really do it. It's like some people can't accept love from other people. And if you can't accept love from other people, then how is like someone else, like how is that's one of those instances where it's like I would say you have to learn to love yourself before you learn to love anyone else. Or it's like maybe you have to learn. Okay, it's so infinitely complex and different. It's not infinitely complex, but it's like if you can't accept love from people, then how is someone else saying that they love you or someone else showing you that they love you going to help you learn to love you? Because you can't accept that. Maybe you can recognize what it is, but in your heart, for some reason, it's like it's not penetrating, it's not getting through, it's not making sense, it's not computing. If that's the case, then you constantly being in a relationship probably isn't going to help you learn self love. Some people have to like give it to someone else or give it to a community or give it to others and then go, oh, I need to give that to myself. And for those, it may be beneficial to have someone there that you can love until you begin to love yourself. Some people can accept it from other people, but can't give it to themselves. And that's, all of these can be in the codependency sort of territory or in danger of encroaching upon it. But eventually you have to learn to give you the things as well. So depending on how you are and how you learn, your path, your situation is going to be different. Now, as infinitely complex as you are, the world, universe, spirit is even more complex. Not only is spirit more complex, the world more complex, but they're also capable of understanding you and all of your complexities. And so when they present you a certain suite of experiences, within that suite of experiences is going to be your way to get whatever it is that you need. I think that's going back to that greener, cleaner energy where it's not necessarily about doing what this person is doing and going to someone else for advice and trying to do or replicate or mimic a different process. That's why I'm such a huge, or I try to be such a huge proponent of like learning the voice of spirit for yourself, seeing for yourself, finding what resonates because you don't need anyone else to get you where you want to go in life. I don't think spirit is so exclusive in that way. Everything you need is presented to you. It's just a question of whether or not you take it, whether or not you accept those challenges to grow, or whether you continue to, I don't want to say live in squalor, but keep yourself in a place where you're not satisfied, continuing to seek exits that only provide superficial temporary relief. Like you don't need a card or a transit or a guru or a mentor or anything. Spirit will talk to you through life and how you feel on the inside, your engagement and interaction with life, your satisfaction or dissatisfaction, it'll guide you where you need to go. Is it easier when, not necessarily easier, but is it helpful to have someone who's done it in some way? Yeah. But if y'all's are different, to the point where you just doing what they do won't work for you. And also, like, not everyone is capable of giving advice that will benefit you. Some people can only really give advice based on their own life and experiences. And if you're a different modality or a different type of person, what worked for them isn't necessarily going to work for you. So that's one of the reasons why just replicating or copying what someone successful is doing may not work for you. And also, it's like, I don't know if I would necessarily like copy what someone successful is doing right now to try to get what they have now. Maybe copy or take bits and pieces of how they got there, because if you're not in the space that they're currently in, the things that work where they are isn't necessarily going to work where you are. And it takes us back to this unaligned, like inside outside energy, and needing to find the point where it's like one to one to set the record straight. It's like things are so distorted between the internal and the external that you can't effectively determine the scale, right? Like map not drawn to scale, and then they have the little thing like 1 inch on the map is equivalent to 1,000 miles. But it's like we have this, or we try to have this inch to inch type of like ratio where it's like, oh, I did like a little bit of something internally. Why am I not? Or it's like it's 1,000 miles internally. No, it's like we have this inch internal, 1,000 miles external type of we can mindset sometimes, where it's like, oh, I've done an inch of work. Like, why am I not a billionaire? And it's like you've done like $5 worth of work, and you're expecting like $250,000. Like, your conversions, your equivalencies are off somewhere. And it's like, honestly, I feel like it's weighted, it can be weighted more heavily internally where that should be the case. But it's almost like it's absolute instead of relative, but it's not. It's complex, it's complicated. But it's like it's just that thing where like sometimes we don't do as much as we think we did. Right? Like in the moment, you think you're like lifting 1,000 pounds, and you're like, whoo, because it feels that heavy. But then when you watch it back, you're like, oh, that was only 10 pounds? What? Like I thought it was heavier. It's that type of like in the moment dissociation from reality and what it actually is, because it feels so much bigger. The cards that came out, it's the Ace of Spades and the Two of Hearts. So this is like an Ace of Swords, Two of Cups type of energy. It feels like there's some separation here. It feels like there's a film. There's something that separates this body of water from that body of water. And the Ace of Swords is the knowledge and the awareness that will cut that and remove it. But in like that's things that you have to accept, or things that you have to learn. Something may be different than what you thought it was, or what you previously perceived of it to be. As long as you don't have that understanding, there'll always be a separation between these two, no matter what you do. For whatever reason, this is something that's locked behind growth. Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Clubs, which is being at our breaking point, ready to give up. But it's like, you ready to give up, and you ain't even too much begun. King of Swords was the card still in the box, the only card in the box. King of Swords is that Archangel Commander energy. King of Spades, sorry. And the Archangel Commander was all about us, again, with this Ace of Swords right here. Something that we have to do in order to make our lives better, because it ain't just happening anymore. It's like, we tried the whole age of Pisces where people don't do nothing but just continue to manifest and manifest. And what happens is, just like in real life, you get a bunch of spoiled, entitled spiritual people, or a bunch of spoiled, entitled religious people who don't actually understand the value of work, because whenever things get too hard, they give up and nothing happens, or they throw a tantrum. And it's like, Like, as long as you've been at this, like, I mean, you can't really blame people if that's how, just like we can't blame people who grow up sort of entitled if they've from birth been given everything that they want and have been taught that they are like inherently deserving of everything that they have without needing to put any kind of effort or energy into it. It's like they're a product of their environment and a product of their raising. So, how upset can you be with the individual person? How upset can you be with the people that raised them if they were raised that way? And at a certain point, it's not about being upset or it's not about finding who to blame. It's about moving forward. And once we get that understanding, we can really move forward in a way that it's like it shortcuts us to a union energy because in some ways it it eliminates that retribution period or the vindication period. um it's complex. Things are complex, um but also at the same time it's like we it's not that like there doesn't need to be an equalizing or a leveling of the field in some way. See, that's the problem with like Hierophant and Ten of Pentacles energy is that once it passes down so far, and like I'm watching the show, and this girl is like, "Why did my mom have to die?" And this other girl is like, "Your ancestors been doing all of this stuff for years." And she was like, "Okay, but what did my mama do? Like, why did my mom have to die?" And this girl is so upset because she just lost her friends and some of her family, but it's like she doesn't realize that the reason why she lost her friends and family is because of her own actions as someone involved in the military complex, but also because of the attack that was done on the other people 4 years ago. And so when they retaliate, all of a sudden it's like, and that's the thing about cycles that just keep themselves turning infinitely. It's like when you feel justified enough to retaliate against someone else, someone will feel justified enough in your retaliation against them to retaliate against you. And it's this endless game of retaliation. And eventually someone has to be like, this stops. Because if I continue to go along with it, it'll never end. Somebody got to be sick and tired enough to actually change something or let something go. And that's that Ace of Swords. It's the thought and the action. And then that's what leads to these energies that have been sitting across each other. It's that realignment of the internal and the external. The the or at the very least the unification, not unification, the uniforming. It's creating a uniform distortion. So we get that scale, that 1 to 100, that 1 to 10, instead of like 1 to 10 here, 1 to 37 there, 1 to 2.5 here, 1 to 152 there, where it's like, it's very difficult. But if it's difficult on the external, it's probably difficult on the internal. And one of the things that's been extremely apparent is how difficult it is for, I don't know, in my mind it's like if it's difficult for you to accept something as happening in reality or in your external environment, then how many things are there inside of you that you're refusing to work through or acknowledge or to see? And if you're the type of person who's like, "Oh, the dark night is always so dark," then I'm not surprised, because the nights don't get any brighter when you don't bring light into them. If you don't bring the light of awareness to something, it's always going to be that dark, and it's always going to come back because the sun rises and the sun sets. And again, in my own personal life, I just reached the point where I was like, I'm not going through this. I can't go through something this dark or anything darker again and expect to live to see the day after. So it's time to bring all that light of awareness into all of these shadows and all of these things that I've been avoiding for as long as I've been avoiding them. Because if I don't, it's over for me. And I've lived enough of a life of misery that I'm not interested anymore. And it served me well. It's made some of the most difficult things that I've done in the past 2 years extremely easy. And maybe not easy to do, but easy for me to decide to do because the alternative I'm not interested in. Um, and I guess it goes back to the concept of deliverance. So shout out to my Christian mama because I was delivered from that. Because I reached the point where I was like, yeah, no, I don't know if it's deliverance or if it's surrender. I'm just like, I'm not doing that again. Like, ooh, that's not. All right. Well, that's what I got. I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever you see this, Mimi. It was fun as always. I hope you get something out of this. Whatever you can pull, if you could take piece or parcel from to make something in your life make a little bit more sense or to give you in some way, if not a different perspective, maybe a way of going about how to establish something within yourself when it comes to living your internal and external life and how to navigate that to make it better and brighter and to actually heal from things and not just continue to rewound yourself. I don't know. I hope you're acting in alignment to make that which you wish to experience your reality because you have the ability to do so. All right. Bye.